Hello, everyone. I'm Anumani, your modern day shaman and the author of Unmasking Your Soul, a transformational journey of truth, light, and healing. And today I have a special guest joining us from Hawaii, and I wish I was there. Patrice. Hello, Patrice.
Aloha, Anumani. It's good to see you. It's good
Aloha.
to be with you.
Thank you. What a pleasure to have you. Before we get started, I'm going to read your bio, Patrice.
Mm-hmm.
So Patrice was born in a small Wisconsin town, and she moved to Hawaii in the year of 2000 to follow her dream of being a full-time professional artist. Before her move, Patrice regularly awoke before dawn to paint, draw, or sculpt before going to work as the creative services manager for a library supply company. Once in her tiny apartment in Honolulu, she realized the need to overcome her fear of watercolor and switch from painting with oils to painting with watercolors. Many oil painters will tell you that they find watercolors intimidating, but Patrice relishes the challenge of the capricious, unpredictable movement of her new medium. Today, Patrice paints, teaches, and markets her art full time. She teaches watercolor classes at the Honolulu Museum of Art, privately and in workshops across the country. Teaching others to paint is extremely satisfying. Seeing the joy that others experience is very rewarding for her, and it reminds her of her love for the magic of discovery, a key reason she paints. She holds a BS in art education from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. She's a signature member, trustee, and past president of the Hawaii Watercolor Society. Her art has been in numerous exhibits in the US, earned many awards, and is collected by fans worldwide. Every painting comes from her heart. A sale for Patrice is a testimony of her ability to connect with other people. And that connection is the spirit of aloha that brought her to the islands. Every painting expresses her aloha. And I just got the chills when I read that, Patrice.
Thank you. Thank you.
So welcome to Unmasking Your Soul Conversations. And I always like to start this conversation by asking you what soul means to you and letting our audience get to hear what it feels like for you to be connected to soul.
For me, the soul is my real, true inner self. It's the me that is bigger than the physical me. It's connected to everything. It's the all there is.
Yes, beautiful. I love that. And today we're going to talk more about how you began to unmask your soul and really become the artist that you are today. And we'll get to show some of your paintings because I'm sure people want to hear more about that. So why don't you start by telling a little bit more about your story of what you had to go through to unmask, right, and let go of some of those fears that were getting in the way of you becoming the artist that you really wanted to be full time.
Yeah. Well, the story, of course, started when I was born, but it, more to the point, really began in the 90s when I started doing, actually more in the 70s when I had a dream that I thought was like a near-death experience. It was that intense, but it was a dream in which I just felt so much love. I'd only been asleep for 45 minutes, and I got a phone call in the dream from someone who started to give me the mathematical formula for infinity. And I said, wait, I have to get some paper. I have to write this down. And he said, oh, that's right. You're not quite there yet. And a door opened up behind me, and one of my guides was there, and she had her arms outstretched, and I guess goosebumps just thinking about it now. There was this enormous light behind her. She was backlit. And I started to hear music all around the room. And I looked up, and there were faces looking down upon me from the room. And I started to lift up off the ground and reach my arms up. And I realized I didn't recognize anyone. And I thought, shouldn't I know some of these people? and when I thought that, the music stopped. And when the music stopped, I woke up. And I realized, but I woke up crying with tears of love because I had felt so much love during that whole thing. And I think that I had already been on a bit of a spiritual journey, but that pretty much kickstarted it even further. And doing more reading. I read a lot of the Seth books. In the 90s, I started doing some conferences on the East Coast, some spiritual conferences. And I worked with a woman there who helped me to open up to doing my art. I was really afraid to do my art. I had, I'd grown up wanting to be an artist or a scientist, because I think both are asking questions and looking for answers and, exploring the mystery. But Helen really opened me up to being an artist. She said, no, this is what you came to do. You came here to be an artist. And so I worked with her for about a year and a half, 2 years on a spiritual level. And then I just started painting. She started me out by doing energy essence portraits, which I have since, I have morphed into a smaller version called Heartscapes, which I have on my website through this month, artofaloha.com. I only offer them for like 3 or 4 months out of the year when you can order them from me, but it's a personal energy portrait of where you are right now. So that's what I started doing.
Beautiful. So talk a little bit more about, were there specific fears or thoughts that would come into your mind about, being an artist, and what were they? Because I'm sure that these are the same types of things people talk about, the monkey mind, right?
Oh, sure. Well, there's always the I'm not good enough. There's one of, that's pretty big. Or what if I can't? Oh, and I grew up with mother and father telling me, that's nice, honey, but you can't make a living doing that. That's, I think, the biggest one that most artists face is the starving instead of the thriving artist. So.
And was there a particular moment where you just said, I need to go for it?
Yes, I was here on vacation 18 years ago. I was visiting a friend in grad school. I had never been here before. It was the last day that I was here, and I was going for a walk up the beach. I had just found out, I hadn't even seen the place yet, but my friend was in grad school. She was writing a proposal for a grant to do work at the Smithsonian. She had just moved into a tiny garage apartment that she didn't have to pay rent for. She did yard work for payment of the apartment. She was a TA, and I hardly saw her all week. So I'm walking up the beach, and I see all these, there was a tour group boogie boarding, and I'm like, oh, I want to try that. So, I got myself, there were no boogie, the tour guide was lovely and offered me, he took me out to get a wave, and I didn't know how to do it. So I climbed a board on my knees and I rode in on my knees, which is not how you normally do it. But I was just thrilled. Then it was time to leave, and I turned around to wave my thanks and my gratitude, and I had tears. I was so happy. And as I did that, I thought to myself, what if Sarah gets her grant? What if she needs somebody to house sit? I could quit my job and I could sell my house and I could move here and I could paint. For years, I had been asking myself 3 mornings a week, at least when I was painting, how can I do this full time and still pay the bills? And I thought, that gives me 5 months. I don't have to pay those kind of bills for 5 months. So this was in January. I had to wait until the middle of April to find out if she got the grant, which left me 6 weeks to, figure this all out. I took a week to talk it over. I told my boss what I was thinking of doing, and I said, I'm going to have to quit my job. I'm going to move to Hawaii to paint. And he had been here before, and he said, ooh, that's going to be a big move. Why don't you take a year's leave of absence? Which completely shocked me because I wasn't expecting that response. We were going into our busy season, but I said, I'll think about that overnight. I don't think I can do that, but I'll think about it. And I came back and I said, no, I have to do this. If I felt that if I had too big of a safety net under me, I might not go far enough, I might not, and I didn't know how long it was going to take, for me to lift off.
Yeah.
So I had 5 weeks, and I sold my house on May 31st, and I was on the plane here June 2nd, and I was probably one of the only people on that flight crying because I was going to Hawaii and leaving everything behind.
Yeah, that's always tough. A big change that it's like we have to grieve those parts of our life as we transition into the new places where we're going. And what courage it takes to do that, right? And listen to that part of your soul telling you, hey, you got to do this.
This is it. You've been asking, I really felt as though I wanted to do this. And I was afraid to do this. And I was more afraid not to do this. I think this was my opportunity. I had a lot of people, worried about me, but I couldn't go there, which was a good thing. I'm not one of these people. I kind of go on my gut a lot, and that's a good thing in this instance. If I had really thought this through a lot further, I probably wouldn't have done it. But I'm glad I did.
Yeah. So once you got to Hawaii, and it's been quite a few years now, and look at where you are, and I can see these beautiful paintings behind you. I think now would be a good time to kind of show one of your paintings, if there's one you want to grab, and maybe talk to the audience of your process and what you go through. I know there's a lot of people in the audience who are creatives, who are, artists, or who desire to build a business around what they love to do. So maybe you can talk a little bit about, where you've come to now, and show one of your pieces.
Okay. I will say that the work I'm doing now is vastly different from the work I did when I immediately got here, because I had to learn a new medium.
Yeah.
And I started out with painting flowers because the flowers here they're just so amazing. I was drawn to them. But the thing that is the same is that I paint what I'm inspired to paint. Paintings that are inspired for me work out much better than paintings that I think I should paint. So rather than use my brain to decide what to paint, I more use my heart to figure it out. And people ask me all the time where I get my inspiration, but I get them everywhere. So this piece is a giclée of a painting that I have called Seasons of Change. It's kind of big right now, but it was inspired by dead leaves. Dead leaves are everywhere, all around the planet. These were ulu leaves, which were under the ulu tree. The ulu is a breadfruit, and the leaves were, I don't even think I could show you. They were so big, they were quite large. So that's one of the paintings. I've taken walks, and I have one time I did a Facebook Live post just showing people the cracks in the sidewalk and how that can be inspirational too, how that can turn into something. This is a painting that I did, I finished this year. It's a little bit big. There's the top part of it.
Beautiful.
And the bottom part of it. It actually started out as a horizontal painting. And it started out in October last year when I was going to a retreat, and I was really nervous about going on this retreat. It was the last of 5 retreats that I had been on over the year, or 4, I don't remember. And I was nervous because I thought, okay, this is almost like the graduation retreat. I'm supposed to have had some kind of amazing epiphany. And so I started this painting in one of the classes I was teaching, and with my left hand, I kind of went around in the circle, while with my right hand, I was doing an infinity symbol. And when we got to the retreat, the following week, I was really surprised to see one of the retreat leaders put that very same image up on the blackboard and talk about the circle, which would have been this area as the learning, and this area of being the doing. And then as soon as I saw the heart in the circle almost immediately. So this painting is called learning, doing, and being, because it kind of incorporates all of it. I don't think that we ever really stop learning. It's important that we energize what we learn so that we can do it, work with it. And I think all of that infuses our life into being. So that's what that painting is about.
Thank you. And I just want to go back to a point that you talked about, which I think is important, about that when you first started, what you were painting was different. And I was talking about a similar concept at some workshops this weekend in a talk, that the more we drop into who we are, it's like what we're here to express evolves too. Mm-hmm. So how I was healing before, as a shaman, has changed more to my voice. But when I first started, it was more hands-on. Very similar to you. You started with flowers because that's where you were in your evolution. And now you're doing watercolor. It's beautiful that really you've dropped into a deeper part of who you are. And that's what's expressing through you, which is really beautiful.
Right. Thank you.
Talk a little bit more about your process, because we all have a process, right?
Sure.
So you saw those, what were they called? The the leaves that you saw on the...
Oh, the ulu leaves.
Ulu
yeah.
leaves.
Yeah.
So you saw those, and then what happens in your mind after that? What happened?
Oh, that was just based on pure beauty. And I took I don't know, 50 photos under the tree of all the dead leaves. And then I do have an art background, so I composed them in what I was hoping would be a pleasing way. But the process I used is called hide and seek. So I start like that one. I started with a drawing. The learning, doing, and being, I didn't start with a drawing, but the leaves started with a drawing. And then I cover the drawing with texture. So I'll use jute, I'll use different kinds of papers. And then once it's covered and wet, I put the paint on top of that. And I let that dry before I take all the texture off to see what's beneath. Mm-hmm. This painting, I used only jute to give me texture. And that came off before I started working on the final painting. So I'll use whatever feels right at the time. But it's fun for me. It kind of reintroduces the mystery and the magic, which is what I'm really after. I'm kind of like a mystery magic junkie, sort of. That's where the juice is. They're really the fun stuff. Because it's really easy to turn anything that you do into a job. And that's the thing I really don't want to have happen to me, because when you turn your passion into a job, I feel you lose the spark.
Yeah.
So
if you were to give some advice to those listening about what are some of the things they can do to overcome the fears or to drop in more to who they are so they can do what they're here to do, what are some of the things that really helped you on your journey?
I have been a journaler since college. So I have so many books, so many journals. I do that. I journal 5 to 7 days a week, oftentimes 7, but occasionally 5 or 6. And I've been doing inner wise self love letters. So I correspond with my inner wise self or my soul self on a regular basis to stay grounded and focused on what it is I truly want to do. And I read quite a lot also in things that whatever sparks my interest. Also, I really think going for walks you know, with the intention of grounding yourself or just being in touch with the nature divas, you know, that helps.
So for those who might not be familiar with Inner Wise Self, the Soul Love Notes, talk a little bit about the process and maybe the questions that you ask that part of you.
Well, it's, I was born in the year of the horse, so almost everything I do quickly. So for me, kind of dropping in or getting still is a matter of putting, I don't always do this, but when I'm teaching it in classes, I'll, you know, put both of your feet on the ground, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and make sure that you can feel a tingling in the soles of your feet. Because I think if you can feel that, you're more likely to be in your body instead of floating around in your head or above it. And then just ask a question of your inner wise self. We all have one. And I write. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there are other ways to do it. So on occasion, I will paint. I do teach I call it a 10 Zen second circle. So you can do the same thing by, you know, take a top of a yogurt container, draw a circle, get it wet, and do the drop in and breathe in, I love, and breathe out to paint. Or I love color. And then allow a color to come and put as much of that color in that circle as you want. And then usually another color just says, oh, me too, you know, and before you know it, you've got a circle filled with color. Stay in the circle. And then you can dialogue with that, or sometimes words will come while you're getting your colors, and just write those down.
Beautiful. I love that. So I know you're doing some things coming up. Can you tell us more about the work you're doing now? And I think you have a cruise coming up this year. So tell everyone about that, because that sounds amazing.
Yes, I'm really excited about that. August 4 through 11, we're going to be touring the Hawaiian Islands. This is my first time taking that tour, that cruise, but one of the women coming along has done it 4 times already. But she said sailing in and out of the different ports of all the islands is so magical, and just having an art class added to it is like icing on the cake. So we will be having art classes. We will be setting intentions every day. But the cruise is meant for more than that, because the islands really do have a lot of energy here, period. It's kind of like ancient Lemuria is here. And with Pele on the Big Island continually making more land, there's a lot of really rich spiritual energy on all of the islands. And each island is so different. Each one has its own personality. We'll spend 2 days on Maui, 2 days on the Big Island of Hawaii, a day on Kauai, and or is it 2 days on Kauai? And then we leave from Honolulu and come back to Honolulu. So I'm excited about that, really excited to share the islands and the energy and the beauty that's here.
And so if people wanted to find out more about that, where could they get more information? And I'll put that information under the video.
I have a page on my website. So my website is artofaloha.com. My last name is too long, so I decided using my name for our website was not a good decision. I had friends who couldn't spell it, so Art of Aloha was available and I snatched it up. So yay. And I do have on the header, there's like home, blog, and cruise right on the top. So you can't miss it. Wow. And I'm open, anybody, please send me an email, patrice@artofaloha.com. I'd be happy to send you more specific information. You can download it from the page on the website.
So do you have any favorite of the islands, or do you love them all? I'm curious.
Well, I've been to them all, and I do love them all. I've been on Oahu the most, and I do love it. There's some amazing points here that unless you know where you're going, you won't find them. And so that's always fun. But I do love the Big Island. there's just something very open and deep and magical about the Big Island. And if you've never seen a volcano, you definitely want to come on this trip, because the volcano is quite the experience. I liken it, the first time, it felt to me like I was watching a life force moving, because that's the kind of energy it has, because you can actually feel it moving.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So anything else, any other tips or anything you want to leave the audience with before we close out?
There's so much more to who you are. And just open up, continually open up. I know that I sometimes close off, or I'll get scared, or I'll freak out. And part of that is, I think, because our brains have been so overstimulated, that if we can drop down more into our heart or our soul center, we can calm our fears, and we can reclaim our energy and our strength and power. And from that place, we have so much more to offer the world, and the world needs us.
So how do you say love in Hawaiian? Is there a word for that, or?
Aloha is a form of love. Aloha means so much more. It's a way of being, but it is really a heart-centered. Aloha pumehana is aloha from the heart. There's so many different ways, but aloha is basically love.
I love that. Yeah, I visited Maui and Kauai, and just loved the energy, and the people were just friendly. So we'll have to come out and visit you, Patrice.
That would be great. I'd love that.
So we're going to close out, and thank you for being on this segment today. I will put all your information under the video so people know how to reach you and go on that amazing cruise with you this year. And I just want to remind everybody that you are loved and you are loved. And I'll be back on next Monday. Thank you. Bye, Patrice.
Hello. Aloha.
Aloha.